I just want to make things again.
You don't need a partner to do that.
Actually, Freddy, I do. I need Jayniac Jr.
Tune in to my live stream.
Hi, so the first season of the iCarly revival series has come to an end, and with that, I wanted to speak on the first season as a whole. We have covered episode by episode here on the channel, but let's look at the full package and discuss it all. Did we enjoy it? Was it worthy of coming back? And what can we expect from season 2? I say we, not just because of you all discussing with me in the comments, but my good friend, the one and only Jayniac Jr. has come to stop by and discuss this with us. This is the part where you say hi.
Hi.
Well, go on, give us more than that.
Oh, well, I'm Jayniac Jr. I analyze fictional characters from your favorite nostalgic TV series. And yes, that includes iCarly. And I'm also a professional musician with a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in snark. I'm, trying to fix that last one.
There we go, that's more like it. I'm honored to have you here today since just between us and discussions, we both have some differing takes on the show, so rather than just give my overall point of view on things, it would be fun to spice things up a bit.
Here's some spice. Victorious is better.
Whoa. Let's save that for our video on your channel. And it's not, by the way, but let's save it.
Let's
save it! So to jump into things, let's just answer the basic question.
Overall, yes, I did enjoy it. Especially the later episodes, this show definitely took its time to get to the good part, but at least it has a good part.
I really enjoyed my time with the show, and as it went along, I found myself more engaged into each episode, not just because I was making content for it, but for the fact of genuine interest in what's happening.
I think the biggest discrepancy between the first and second half of this season lies primarily in its writing. Episodes end with little to no closure. Comedy is sprinkled with modern references that definitely won't be dated in 20 years. And characters explain things out loud for no reason beyond letting the audience know why they're here. And yes, Carly does mention this in episode 8, but calling yourself out for it doesn't automatically justify you doing it.
Yeah, that would fall mostly on the writing. Episodes early on felt more abrupt, with some situations hitting a climax and even some full resolution, but adding no cooldown at the end to establish the results of said situation. Not everything needs that, sure, but when characters spout exposition to explain to the audience what is happening, it seems weird to not explain the end and wrap up things neatly. Now, exposition isn't always a bad thing. It's usually an easy way out of the golden rule of show and not tell. It can create a talking down tone to the audience rather than a going along tone with the show. Don't tell me about the apple, show me that apple. If I can work along with the show and understanding, I feel an attachment can better be established between show and viewer. Of course, this is a sitcom, not an award caliber production, so I don't pick on every little thing because it's the nature of the sitcom beast. For example, it's fine to explain an unfamiliar situation unknown to the audience to help pace the runtime, but with returning characters like Neville, for example, we don't need a crash course on the character, even if it were to be told to a new character who doesn't know him. This really isn't a full show for new fans, but rather reliant on growing up with, or at least watching, the original iCarly show, which I will touch on this later.
A lot of these issues were fixed or toned down as the series progressed, which is great until you realize that apparently the original order of episodes isn't what we actually got. Don't believe me? In episode 7, I Need Space, Harper mentions it being Black History Month, which is in February. But in episode 6, I'm Cursed, they're celebrating Carly's birthday, which is supposed to be in July. And if you still don't believe me, Francesca Ramsey, the writer of episode 7, confirmed that it was supposed to be episode 4 on Twitter. Interesting time we're living in, where we can just talk to the people that make the shows we like. You think we'll ever be writers or directors?
The sky's the limit, my friend. Now, I do agree with the sentiments though. The show, while progressively getting better, struggled with tonality and pacing. While the later half feels more coherent and more of what I wanted to see from the show in general, the first half feels a bit clunky in execution, bringing us back into the world of the show, while we see the characters and plot try to find a comfortable groove. With episodes being switched around and released out of order, a concept that is no stranger to how most shows sometimes play around with releases, for a show that while having standalone episodes does have some connective tissue between them, meaning callbacks to previous episodes, characters, and situations occurs frequently. It could be risky to do so. Here, it really only fell back on the date example of an episode somehow taking place 5 months prior to the previous episode, or that could just all be interpreted as a joke. Either way, leading to a feeling of T's not being crossed and I's not being dotted. A bit more thoroughness would have been better in making sure there wasn't such a noticeable date-related comment after an episode based around a certain date. This I do not blame the writers on. That more likely falls on the showrunner's responsibility in keeping some of the things in line. Speaking of lines, it's easy in concept to say that the returning cast should be fine to pick back up these roles, especially playing them for as long as they did on the original show. But time has passed, the actors have aged, and so have the characters that they're playing. Finding that rhythm of stepping back into the shoes of these characters could pose a challenge, as characters like Carly and Freddy were kids during the first show and now adults in their mid-late 20s. So discovering the right line delivery to re-inhabit these roles and also rediscover them for a new age at first seemed a bit static, but grew as the show progressed. Except for Jerry Traynor coming back as Spencer. He is perfect from the start and carried the majority of the show in the first set of episodes. Bless this national treasure.
It's wonderful seeing Miranda Cosgrove, Nathan Kress, and especially Jerry Traynor return to their roles. In many ways, it feels like they never left. Carly still meddles in people's business, Spencer's still the life of the party, but Freddy is the weirdest. This man goes through 2 divorces, a failed startup, falls for a multi-level marketing scam, and gets insulted over and over and over again. But worst of all, Freddy is pretty much always relegated to the B-plot of episodes. My man has like 1 episode focusing on him. This is a main character from the original series. Hashtag no more B-plot Benson. Joining the cast were Lacey Mosley as Harper Betancourt and Jaden Triplett as Millicent. Both characters contribute to the show in their own unique ways, and both actresses give their best performances. Millicent began the series as a pretty loathed character, but it didn't take long for her to find her place among her co-stars. And then there's Harper. Let me start by saying I love Harper when she's written a certain way. Now, Lacey Mosley faced a lot of unwarranted hate for being Carly's new best friend. Lacey, the actress, doesn't deserve any hate for anything she's done on the show. Her acting is perfect for the character. You see, Harper Betancourt is in many ways a stark contrast to Sam Puckett. Where Sam was a middle-class gal with little to no interest in improving herself, Harper went from riches to rags and has dreams of becoming a fashion designer. Sam was the co-host of iCarly.com's web show, while Harper helps Carly with her social media knowledge behind the scenes.
Adding in new characters to any pre-established intellectual property poses a risk of fearing the unknown and changing what was once there. Clearly, with such an important character like Sam not being there, and giving Carly a new best friend can, and already had before the show premiered, provide a dissonance with the core audience. But in execution, the show navigated this pretty well, especially the longer the show went on. Not only giving respect to Sam and treating her memory of being there before with class, but making sure Harper is her own character. Completely different from who Sam was, Harper is not a replacement for Sam. Harper is Harper, and I am glad that they clearly have made an effort to establish that. Millicent had a tougher time as her character was written more aggressively negative, and kind of just there to give Freddy a new purpose since the web show isn't as prevalent. Luckily, the show strategically gave Millicent a character arc of figuring out who she is and dealing with a separated family amongst other family situations discussed. Now she is more involved and serves a better role alongside Freddy. But with the mention of the web show being less prevalent, there is a lack of iCarly in iCarly.
This right here is my biggest problem with the new iCarly series. Literally, where is iCarly? Where is the web show? For most episodes, the iCarly web show is nowhere to be found, and the few times we do see it, it's just live streams with middling views for a channel that has 3 million subscribers. How cool would it have been if the revival tackled the web show in a way where Carly Shay is now this has-been internet star that has to climb her way back to fame? In the original series, they hardly worked for it. They were kind of just this overnight sensation. This new series could comment on the fact that now, things have changed. The internet is far more accessible now than it ever was in the old series. The show could have Carly's rise to fame be the overarching plot that knits each episode together, instead of these loosey-goosey, anything-goes kind of plots.
I agree. While I do enjoy the situation of the week each episode tackles, having a connective tissue as strong as the crawl into internet relevancy once again would have been a more exciting take on an overarching storyline. By shoving the web show to the side with little mentions of what the web show actually is now, kinda takes away the point of iCarly. Yes, the characters are the core, sure, but when the show is titled iCarly and 99% of your focus is on everything but that, you may have well just made a new show in general. The times we are getting a look into it, it becomes once again a tell with little show. We hear how many subscribers she has, some baseline statistics, even her trying to edit a challenge video together, but we just never see the actual show or the content she is producing, aside from a couple times being used to bring Carly back into creating and stuff like Griffin coming back to sling a pyramid scheme on it. How would you like it if rather I didn't create the videos on the channel for you to watch, but instead I told you that I made them, even show you me working on them sometimes, but never gave you even a taste of the final product? Instead, I just went and had a birthday party or a girls trip instead. She does go live on social media sometimes as well, I guess, so there's that as a substitute, but it's too infrequent. Well, no, I guess. That doesn't mean I'm not grateful for seeing these characters again and having fun once again with them on their new adult life adventures. It just hasn't given us a reason for why this needed to happen, aside nostalgia. But if it played into more of what we just discussed, the more social media relevance climbed back to the top, that would make more sense in such a different space that we're all in now. YouTube was really in an infancy stage back when iCarly originally came out. I made a whole video on that, check it out. So it was ahead of its time and followed a rising trend. Here it doesn't even feel like it's trying to chase the current trend, just sly mentions of it with no real struggle. How do you feel about that, Jayniac? Was the revival necessary?
In all honesty, no, I don't think this revival was necessary at all, but hey, you know what? More iCarly? Sure, why not?
I figured you'd say something like that.
A lot of people that say this new revival is amazing have a tendency to base that opinion on other revivals. I've lost count of how many people have said, well, it's better than this other show, to which I respond with, yeah, 1 bag of pee is better than 10 bags of poo, and I still don't want either. My point is, it's not a good defense. That being said, this revival is good, but I wonder how many people realize this was only created to bank on their nostalgia. This really becomes noticeable whenever we see returning side characters. iCarly villain Nora Dershlit is used as a red herring in her first reappearance. Principal Franklin shows up to give his past students their time capsule letters, and then he's just kind of there in the background. Oh, and Duke's there too, I guess? Then, resident Pee-wee baby bad boy, Griffin, my favorite of Carly's ex-boyfriends, returns and tries to scam them into a pyramid scheme. Neville Papperman is probably the only returning side character that felt natural, until the end of the episode where he just changes his mind. It's easy to see that these characters were only brought back for the sake of nostalgia. The problem is, they were hardly ever used in a way that felt organic. Swap Griffin with Duke in episode 9, change a bit of dialogue, and you have the exact same episode. Nothing would be different. Swap Principal Franklin with Mr. Howard in episode 6, change a bit of dialogue, and again, you have the exact same episode.
I very much agree with that. The bringing back of characters that we remember, while fun to point at the screen and go, ooh, looky, I know them, like your Leonardo DiCaprio, ends up in a disappointment when the character isn't used in a way that would make sense for the character to be there. If we were going to pick and choose random one-off characters or even larger role characters from the original show, give them a proper reason, something that makes sense to their character to be there. I don't want to see Miss Briggs come back for a walk-on, walk-off role if, let's say, she was there to be a burglar and is robbing Spencer's apartment. That wouldn't make sense, would it? Any random character could play that role. Instead, use her for something that would get her in an awkward confrontation with Carly and Freddie that would feel within her character to do. But the situation to cause that would be the crutch, like maybe Freddie and Carly are driving and rear-end her car. She just can't escape her annoyance of these children even as adults. But more pertinent detriment to the show is that it is tied to the original. If you come in as a new viewer to just the revival series, a lot can get lost in translation, even with all the exposition. Needing the knowledge of the journey we followed these characters on already to get here can be a big ask of any show, and here it for sure is needed. A lot of the draw of the show is seeing these characters again, where they are, what's new, and where they will go. But why would you care about any of that without the attachment? I'm not saying you wouldn't find enjoyment in jumping into the show right now not having seen the original, but the show hasn't reintroduced these characters, so to speak. It's just carrying on who they were, now with a mysterious 10 years of baggage added on.
Also not helping matters is the fact that iCarly had a proper ending. Yes, they left room to continue, but like, it was done.
If the show would have given even just the first episode a dedicated "Who is Carly? Why does she want to create content again?" Not just say she does, but truly show it. I think the show would be easier to separate from the original better in a new viewer aspect, and have that clear distinction from show to show, all while bringing in those references, nostalgia bait, older characters, etc.
You know what didn't have a proper ending?
Moving on.
I have a lot of ideas for where the show might go, but if I could make a few requests, give us better transitions. I miss the guitar riffs. While you're at it, give us better background music. So many episodes have this awkward ambience when characters are talking. Speaking of characters, bring back Wendy, one of Carly's few recurring friends from the original series, played by Mary Ann Springer. Wendy never got involved with the iCarly web show, but there was never any bad blood between her and the iCarly crew. It'd be cool to have at least one of Carly's female friends return. Bring back Alex Xavier. I hate that Double Dutch basically overwrote Harper's interest in Alex Xavier. He was so much more fun. If you're going to introduce series regulars like Maeve and Wes, maybe don't do it so late. Maeve shows up in episode 10 out of 13, and Wes shows up in episode 11 out of 13. Not much room for development, but I guess they knew they'd be getting a second season. And finally, bring back a Victorious character. It's been firmly established that Victorious takes place in the same universe as iCarly, so what are they up to now? Maybe we could have a Halloween episode where the iCarly web show is streamed on the set of a horror movie, and the director is none other than Jade West. Maybe Millicent needs a babysitter, and they accidentally hire Sam and Cat's Super Rockin' Fun Time babysitting service that is now only run by Cat Valentine. Or maybe, just maybe, Freddy goes to a bar in an attempt to prove his manliness, and after getting completely wasted, he starts flirting with the bartender, who humors him as he makes a fool of himself. The bartender calls a taxi to bring Freddy home, but before Freddy gets in, he turns to the bartender and says, "Hey, I never got your name," to which the bartender responds with, "Vega. Tori Vega."
When it comes to moving forward with the series, my biggest want is what we have been discussing thus far. I think it's not too late to start showing more of Carly working towards content and streaming goals. There will definitely be more room to write in more meaningful character callbacks and cameos now that the show is established, and I really overall want the situations the characters get into to continue growing upon the current modern day digital age landscape. Some episodes in season 1 definitely hit more unique topics like this, but a lot were relegated to average sitcom stories that you can find or see in any other show, and in some cases done better. With so many characters to now juggle, I would love to see less pushing back of characters to small B-plots and have runtimes extend past the 22 to 24 minutes, if the story permits it to. Most shows on streaming play around with lengths like this, and here it can help loosening up those old TV restraints that are stuck on it, and just maybe getting rid of those abrupt rush endings we've seen throughout season 1. Well, that was fun. I am super appreciative of Jayniac Jr. for stopping by and sharing his thoughts. Hey Jayniac, where can people find you at?
They can find me on my YouTube channel, where I analyze fictional characters based on their personalities, home lives, and relationships. And occasionally I post movie commentaries and even music videos. I've gotta say, it's an honor to be a part of this iCarly journey with you. The amount of consistent effort you put into your topics is rivaled by none, and the fact that you also edit for other channels is just insane to me. For those who don't know, Jordan Fringe doesn't sleep, but he's way too humble to complain about it. So allow me to give you your much deserved praise. In return, you can do us all a favor and get some rest. iCarly's new season is complete, and your season of Restless Nights have come to a close. Until next year, when Season 2 comes out. Hope I'm still cool enough for another collab.
Well, now that my ego has been pumped up, thank you for being a great friend and joining us all here today. You're one talented person, and I'm always looking forward to everything you put out. You should all go over to Jayniac's channel, as we have a special collab over there where we go back and forth pitting iCarly against Victorious, so you won't want to miss that. Link will be down below. Thank you all for hanging out here today with us. Please let us know in the comments your thoughts on the iCarly revival series as a whole and what you're looking forward to in Season 2. I appreciate going on this iCarly adventure with you all over the past couple months, and I guess we gotta do it all again for Season 2, right? Anyways, I'll see you all soon with a new video. I'm exhausted. Later.